The wind was howling outside, like it was searching for something. Rain slapped against the windows of Eleanor's small cabin. She sat in her old armchair, knitting in silence. The fireplace crackled, but the room still felt cold, not from the weather, but from the quiet that had filled her home ever since her husband passed. Then she heard it. Soft, barely there. Scratch, scratch. She paused, looked up, and listened again. Scratch, scratch. Eleanor stood slowly. "Who's out there?" she muttered. Another scratch. This time a whimper followed. Her heart skipped. It wasn't the wind. She opened the door and froze. Two tiny golden puppies, soaked to the bone, stood there trembling. Their fur was matted, down by the rain, and their eyes, those big round eyes, were begging. "Oh my," Eleanor gasped, stepping forward. "You poor little souls." The puppies didn't bark or move. They just stared up at her, shivering. One of them gave a small, broken cry. Without thinking, she scooped them into her arms. Their little bodies were freezing cold, like they'd been out there for hours. Eleanor held them close to her chest and whispered, "It's all right now. You're safe." She shut the door, hurried to the fireplace, and grabbed 2 old towels from the hallway. She knelt down and began drying them gently. The smaller pup leaned into her hand, letting out a sigh. "Where did you come from?" she asked softly. "Who left you out in a storm like this?" The puppies didn't answer, of course, but something in their eyes said they were grateful. She brought out a worn wool blanket and placed it near the fire. Both pups curled into each other, forming a small golden ball. Eleanor watched them in silence. She hadn't had company in so long, not since Richard died last winter. The loneliness had settled in like snow on her roof, quiet, heavy, and cold. But now, her cabin didn't feel so empty. She got up to prepare a little warm milk in a shallow dish. But when she returned, the smaller puppy had tried to stand and collapsed. Alarmed, she rushed over. "Hey, hey, don't push yourself," she whispered, stroking its head. The other pup licked its sibling's ear and whimpered. Eleanor set the dish down. "Try this," she coaxed. They sniffed it, then drank, slowly, nervously, like they didn't trust good things to last. As they ate, Eleanor took a closer look. They both had golden fur, soft but messy, and they had matching tiny white marks on their front paws. She frowned. "That's no accident," she murmured. "You two, your siblings." Suddenly a gust of wind slammed the front door, making Eleanor jump. The pups flinched too. "Shh, it's all right," she said, heart pounding. She got up to bolt the door. As she walked back to the fireplace, she sighed. "Guess you'll need names, huh?" She looked at the slightly bigger one. You're Sonny," she said with a faint smile. "And you," she whispered, touching. The smaller one, "You'll be Goldie." Sonny wagged his tiny tail. Goldie blinked slowly, her body still shaking a bit. Eleanor sat down beside them. She didn't realize tears were sliding down her cheeks until one dropped onto Goldie's back. She wiped her face and chuckled softly. "Didn't expect company tonight," she said. "But maybe I needed it more than I knew." The storm outside raged on, but inside something had changed. The fire glowed a little brighter. The silence didn't feel so heavy anymore. Eleanor looked at the pups again. "Wherever you came from," she whispered, "I promise I won't let anything happen to you now." And for the first time in months, she didn't feel so alone. The fire popped softly as Eleanor sat close to the 2 puppies. They were curled under the blanket, but their little bodies still trembled. Goldie hadn't moved much since she came in, and Sonny kept nudging her, like he was trying to make her get up. Eleanor watched them closely. "You're safe now," she said gently. "Nobody's going to hurt you here." She dipped a finger in the warm milk and brought it to Goldie's mouth, but the pup turned away. Sonny licked her nose and whimpered. That sound, so tiny, so full of fear, broke Eleanor's heart. Then she noticed something strange. When Sonny stretched his paw out, a small white mark peeked from underneath. It wasn't just fur. Eleanor leaned in and carefully lifted his paw. There. It was a faint, almost perfect circle. She turned Goldie's paw too, the same exact mark. "That's not normal," she whispered. That's too exact." It looked almost like a brand, not one that had hurt them, but like it was done on purpose. Eleanor felt a chill crawl up her spine. Who would do something like that to puppies? She sat back, staring at them. "Where did you two come from?" she murmured again. Goldie gave a soft sneeze and snuggled closer to Sunny. Neither of them made a sound after that. They were exhausted, but something deep down told Eleanor these pups hadn't just gotten lost. She stood up and walked to her phone. No missed calls, no alerts, no messages about missing dogs. She checked the local community page online. Nothing. About 2 golden puppies missing. "That's odd," she said to herself. Someone would have posted something by now. She looked over her shoulder. Sunny's eyes were half closed, but he was still awake, watching her. "Are you trying to tell me something?" she asked, walking back toward them. "Did someone do something to you?" Sunny blinked slowly. She sat down again, brushing Goldie's wet ears dry. The towel was damp now, and the fire was slowly warming them up. "All right," Eleanor said softly. "Let's figure this out. You two didn't just wander into the middle of a storm for no reason. Someone left you, or worse, someone put you here." Sunny made a tiny noise, almost like a sigh. Goldie still hadn't eaten. Eleanor tried again, holding the dish close, but the little puppy refused. "I need you to eat, sweetheart," she whispered. "You need your strength." Sunny tried to lap up some milk, but he didn't take more than a sip. Something was wrong. Not just fear, not just the cold. It was deeper than that. Eleanor stood again and looked out the window. Snow was still falling, but lighter now. Her cabin was in the woods, quiet, peaceful, but not close to any road. For the puppies to get here on their own? It didn't make sense. "No tracks," she muttered. "No tire marks either. Then how—" She glanced back. "Were you dumped?" The thought made her chest tighten. Who could be so cruel? "I don't know who you belong to," she said, her voice trembling. "But I promise you this, you belong here now." Goldie gave the smallest wag of her tail. It wasn't much, but it was something. Eleanor smiled faintly. "That's right. We'll figure this out. Together." She wrapped the blanket tighter around them. Her old heart had carried grief for so long. But now, there was a spark, a reason to stay up, to care again. "Sleep now," she whispered. "Tomorrow, we find out where you really came from." And for the first time in a long while, Eleanor wasn't just waiting for the days to pass. She was holding on to something that mattered. 2 tiny lives with cold secrets yet to unfold. Eleanor barely slept. Goldie and Sunny lay curled up by the fire, finally warm, but too quiet. Something still wasn't right. As the morning light broke through the frost-covered window, she packed them in an old basket lined with blankets. "We're going to town," she whispered. "Somebody must know something." The snow crunched under her boots as she placed the basket gently in her truck. Sunny peeked out, blinking at the light. Goldie didn't move much. The ride was slow. Her old truck wasn't built for icy roads, but she had to try. At the general store, the bell jingled as she walked in, holding the basket tight. A few people glanced her way. "Excuse me," Eleanor called out, her voice steady. "Has anyone heard about 2 golden puppies? Found them last night. They were freezing outside my cabin." People shook their heads. One woman gave a small smile. "No, ma'am, haven't heard a thing." Eleanor sighed, about to turn back, when a teenager stocking shelves near the back glanced over. "You said golden pups?" he asked. His voice cracked a little. "2 of them." Eleanor nodded. "Yes, small, shivering. Both have strange white marks under their paws." The boy swallowed hard. "My uncle, he had a litter last month. Golden retrievers. But he's not exactly gentle with animals." "What do you mean?" Eleanor asked, walking closer. The teen looked down. "Said something like, 'These 2 are too quiet, too small. Gotta get rid of the weak ones.'" His voice dropped. "That's all he said before he took off in his truck." Eleanor's heart dropped. "What kind of truck?" "Black pickup. Dented tailgate. Loud engine." Her hands tightened around the basket. "Do you know where he went?" The teen shook his head. "No, Mom. He disappears sometimes. Comes back like nothing happened." Eleanor didn't say another word. She turned and walked out quickly. Sunny whimpered in the basket. "It's okay," she said softly, holding back tears. "I know now. I know who did this to you." Back at the cabin, the wind had picked up. Again. Snowflakes floated down, covering the footprints from earlier. She carried the pups inside and lit the fire once more. Hours passed. Eleanor kept glancing outside. By evening, she was trying to feed them again when Sonny suddenly froze. His ears twitched. Eleanor looked up. "What is it, boy?" Then she heard it too, a low engine rumble, getting closer. She stood, heart pounding. Through the frosted window, headlights appeared at the edge of the woods. A dark truck slowly rolled down the snowy path. It stopped right in front of her gate. The engine idled for a moment. Then, nothing. No one got out. Eleanor stepped back from the window. "No, not tonight," she whispered. "Not after what you did." Goldie whimpered softly. Sonny pressed closer to her. The truck stayed there, still, silent. Then slowly, it backed up. The tires spun a bit in the snow and it disappeared down the hill. Eleanor's knees gave out as she sat on the floor beside the pups. She didn't speak for a while. Her eyes stayed fixed on the door. They were watching, she whispered at last. He was watching. She wrapped her arms around Sonny and, "Goldie, you're not going anywhere," she said softly. "Not now. Not ever." Sonny licked her hand. It was the first moment of trust he'd shown. "You're safe here," she whispered. "I'll protect you." Outside, the snow covered the truck's tracks. But inside, warmth returned slowly. Goldie finally lifted her head and let out a tiny, shaky bark. It was the sound of life pushing back. Eleanor smiled through tears. "That's it, girl. You're stronger than he thought." But even as the fire cracked and the pups drifted off to sleep, Eleanor couldn't forget the way the truck had just paused. Whoever left them wasn't done. Not yet. Goldie lay on her side, finally, resting after another uneasy night. Eleanor sat beside her, brushing her gently with an old comb. The strokes were slow, careful. Goldie still flinched sometimes, but Eleanor talked softly, just like she used to with her own dog, years ago. Then her hand stopped. Right near Goldie's belly, hidden beneath her golden fur, was something off. A faint mark, almost shaped like a circle, red and dry. Eleanor leaned closer. What on earth? She gently moved the fur aside and saw it more clearly now. A burn, small but deep, the kind that didn't happen by accident. Her chest tightened. She looked over at Sonny, who was curled in the corner. Every time she touched his back legs, he pulled away like it hurt. She had thought maybe it was just cold stiffness, but now she wasn't so sure. "You two didn't just get left behind, did you?" Eleanor whispered. She didn't wait another minute. She wrapped the pups in blankets again, this time placing them in the back seat of the truck. The drive was quiet, the road covered with patches of snow. Her hands gripped the wheel tighter than before. They stopped in front of a small cabin with a crooked wind chime on the porch. Eleanor got out and knocked. The door opened fast. "Ellie," a short, middle-aged woman, blinked. "It's freezing out here. I need your eyes," Eleanor said. "On these two." Marta, once a vet and always a friend, didn't ask questions. She stepped aside, letting Eleanor carry the pups in. Sonny whined as they were set down gently. Marta went to work right away, her face growing more serious by the second. She looked at Goldie first, lifting her fur with soft fingers. Then she turned to Sonny, checking his legs and lower back. She didn't speak until she sat back with a sigh. "Ellie, these pups were abused." Eleanor's face dropped. "Are you sure?" Marta nodded slowly. "The burn on Goldie, it wasn't an accident. It's clean and round, probably from something hot. And Sonny, his joints have tiny bruises. Could be from being grabbed too hard, or kicked." Eleanor sat down, hands shaking slightly. "They were left out in that storm," Marta added. "No food, no warmth. If you hadn't found them, they wouldn't have made it through the night." There was silence for a moment, just the sound of Sonny's soft breathing. "I don't get it," Eleanor said finally. "Why have dogs just to treat them like this?" Marta's eyes softened. "Some people see animals as things, not souls." Eleanor looked at the pups. They were watching her now, those deep, innocent eyes full of quiet pain. "They still trust," Eleanor whispered. "After all that." Marta touched her arm. "It's not your fault, but someone did this," Eleanor said. Her voice was lower now. "Someone thought these babies didn't matter, and they're out there still thinking that." Marta didn't argue. "They left them outside my cabin like trash," Eleanor added. And last night, that truck came back. What? Marta's face tightened. You think they know you took them? I don't know. But they slowed down, watched, didn't get out, then drove away. Marta looked at the puppies again. You might not be safe. Eleanor didn't answer right away. She walked over and knelt beside Sonny, running a hand gently along his side. I won't let anyone hurt you again, she whispered. Sonny let out a small sigh, almost like a thank. You! You should tell someone, Marta said. The sheriff, maybe. Eleanor shook her head. Not yet. I need to understand more first. I need to know who he is. Marta raised a brow. You're not going to let this go, are you? No, Eleanor said simply. Not after seeing those scars. Goldie rested her head on Eleanor's knee. The mark on her belly peeked through her fur, quiet proof of what she'd survived. I'll take them home, Eleanor said softly. I've got to keep them safe. Marta helped her pack them up again. As they stood on the porch, Marta hugged her tightly. Call me if you see that truck again. I will. Driving back through the snowy woods, Eleanor looked at them in the rearview mirror. Still scared, still healing, but alive and not alone anymore. Her grief was now something else. It had hardened, turned into something sharper. Would find the man who did this, and he'd never hurt another creature again. Eleanor didn't sleep much that night. She kept thinking about Goldie's burn, Sonny's bruises, and that slow-moving truck. Something deep inside her had changed. She wasn't just rescuing anymore. She was going to fight. The next morning, she met Marta at the edge of town, bundled. Against the cold, Marta had spent the night asking around, calling old contacts and digging through local rumors. There's a place, she said, climbing into Eleanor's truck. Used to be a licensed breeder. Roy Haskins. Got fined years ago but never shut down. Locals whisper about it, but no one steps in. They followed a cracked road through frozen fields. Finally, Marta pointed. There. The farm sat low under a gray sky. Its barn looked like it hadn't seen paint in years. Fences were bent. The air was sharp, but it carried a sound. Barking. Not happy barking. Desperate. Tired. Eleanor pulled off the road and grabbed her binoculars. She saw cages. Too many. Some were half covered with old tarps. Others had dogs pacing in circles. One dog barked until it coughed. Another just lay still. Marta lowered her voice. He's still doing this. Eleanor clenched the wheel. And no one's stopping him? Not without proof. They didn't stay long. Just enough to see the truth with their own eyes. On the way back, Eleanor didn't speak until they were almost home. He's the one, she said quietly. I feel it. I think so too, Marta agreed. But feelings won't close that place. Eleanor stepped inside her cabin, greeted by the wag of Sonny's tail and Goldie's gentle nuzzle. She dropped to her knees, hugging them both. That night she opened her laptop. The cursor blinked. Then she began typing. She didn't just write. What happened? She told their story. The burn, the bruises, the storm, the truck. She added photos. Sonny sleeping in a blanket. Goldie resting by the fire. Then she clicked post. The first comment came in 5 minutes later. Then another. By morning, there were dozens. By evening, hundreds. One woman wrote, "This happened to our Golden too. We got her from a farm just like that." A man replied, "Same Roy Haskins, same town. I always wondered what happened to those pups." Marta scrolled through the comments with her. "This isn't just one case," she said. "It's a pattern." Eleanor's hands shook a little as she read. So many people, and no one ever stopped him. Until now, Marta said. Calls started coming in. Local reporters, animal advocates. One shelter offered legal help. Another offered transport if dogs were found. Eleanor posted an update, tagging everyone she could. More stories flooded in. "I'm tired of hiding," she wrote. "These animals deserve more. If you've ever seen or heard anything, speak now." The next day she drove back by the farm. She didn't stop, just passed slow enough to see 2 new cages. 2 new dogs. Marta called her that evening. "You're not going to believe this. Someone sent drone footage of the farm. Shows the cages, the dogs, everything." Eleanor sat down hard. "Are we finally getting somewhere?" "We are," Marta said. "I think this time he won't get away with it." Goldie crawled into Eleanor's lap. Sonny curled beside her. She looked at them both. "I promised I'd protect you," she whispered. "And I meant it." She didn't know what the next day would bring. But now, the tide was turning. And this time, Roy Haskins wouldn't stay in the shadows. Eleanor was folding the last blanket around Goldie when she heard it again, a sharp, frantic scratching at the door. But this time it didn't sound like the soft paws of her puppies. No, this was heavier, angrier. Her breath caught. She moved closer, heart pounding, and peered through the frosted glass. Outside, the storm raged harder, rain slashing against the windows like needles. Then a shadow appeared by the porch light. It was Roy Haskins. His face was flushed red, eyes bloodshot, wild with rage and maybe whiskey. "You took what's mine," Roy bellowed, pounding a fist against the wooden door. "Those puppies belong to me." Eleanor swallowed hard, trying to keep calm. "They don't belong to you, Roy. They were hurt. I'm keeping them safe now." "Safe?" Roy scoffed. "They're just mutts. Weak, useless." His voice cracked, with anger and something more. Pain, maybe. The door shook again. Suddenly Roy pushed it open, stumbling inside like a storm himself. "Give them back!" he shouted, eyes wild, hands reaching for the puppies. Sonny growled low and deep, the first time Eleanor had ever heard that sound. Goldie barked sharply, jumping between Roy and Eleanor like a little guard. Roy tried to grab Goldie, but Sonny lunged, biting Roy's boot hard. "Get off me, damn dogs!" Roy yelled, trying to shake them away. Eleanor stepped forward, voice steady but firm. "Stop it, Roy. You're hurting them. They don't belong to you anymore." Roy's face twisted with fury. He shoved Eleanor back roughly. "They're just animals. No one cares about them like I do." Goldie barked louder, warning him to back off. Sonny growled, baring teeth. The room was thick with tension. The storm, outside, fading into the background. Then a loud bang sounded outside. The neighbors were drawn by the shouting and barking. Voices whispered and doors opened along the street. Someone had called the police. Within moments, flashing red and blue, lights cut through the storm. 2 officers pushed through the door, calm but firm. "Sir, step back and calm down," one officer said. "You're under arrest for animal cruelty and trespassing." Roy's face flushed even darker. "You can't take them. They're mine," he screamed, struggling against the officers. "No," Eleanor said quietly but clearly. "They're safe here now." The officers cuffed Roy and pulled him toward the door. He cursed and shouted as they led him out into the stormy night, but the fight was gone from him. Eleanor closed the door, heart racing, and knelt beside Sonny and Goldie. The puppies were trembling, eyes wide but alive. They looked up at her, as if saying, "We're still here. You were so brave," she whispered, gently stroking Sonny's soft fur. Goldie licked her hand in thanks, tiny tail wagging weakly. For the first time, the puppies seemed calm, trusting her completely. Eleanor's heart ached, thinking about all they'd been through, but a warm relief spread through her, a feeling that maybe this nightmare was finally over. "I promise," she said softly. "No one will ever hurt you again." The storm outside began to ease, the rain slowing to a soft patter against the windows. It felt like the whole world was breathing out, finally letting go of a long-held fear. Eleanor looked down at Sonny and Goldie, feeling hope stir in her chest. "We're going to be okay," she told them. But deep down, Eleanor knew this was just the beginning. Roy's cruelty had left scars, both seen and hidden. Healing would take time, but they had survived the worst night, and now it was time to fight back. Suddenly, Sonny whimpered softly and pressed his small body close against Eleanor's leg. Goldie followed, nudging her hand with a tiny nose. "You're safe now," Eleanor said, tears threatening, but not falling. "We'll get through this together." In the silence after the storm, Eleanor sat with the puppies, her hands never leaving them. The house was quiet, but her mind raced. She thought of Roy's threats, his desperate anger, and how close she'd come to losing them all. Then she made a silent vow to protect Sonny and Goldie no matter what, to be their voice when they couldn't speak, to bring justice for the pain they'd suffered. The night had broken everything, but it had also shattered the silence around Roy's cruelty. Neighbors had seen, the police had come, and now the truth was out. Eleanor knew that from here on, things would change. Sonny and Goldie, once scared and broken, were now warriors in their own right. They had faced the darkness and come through it alive. And Eleanor, holding them close, felt something she hadn't in a long time. Hope. Hope that love could heal even the deepest wounds. Hope that justice could be found. Hope that these little lives could be saved, no matter what. Together, they would face whatever came next. Because this was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for a future filled with light. Eleanor never expected the story of Sunny and Goldie to spread so fast. It started with a small local news report, just a few minutes about the two puppies who survived cruelty and found safety at her cabin. But soon, that little story exploded online. Videos showed Sunny and Goldie running around Eleanor's yard, their fur shining in the sun, tails wagging like they had no worries in the world. The playful way they chased each other, their joyful barks. It was a far cry from the scared, broken pups Eleanor had first found. One video went viral overnight. People all over the country shared it, leaving messages filled with love and support. "Thank you for saving them," one comment read. Another said, "These pups are proof that kindness changes everything." Eleanor sat by her computer, tears welling up as she read through the messages. She never thought her small act of kindness would touch so many hearts. Then the donations started coming in. Some were small, a few dollars here and there, but others were big, enough to help pay for veterinary bills, food, and supplies. Rescue groups contacted her too, offering to take dogs from Roy's farm and give them new homes. Marta called one afternoon, her voice full of hope. "Ellie, we've managed to pull 20 dogs from that farm. They're all on their way to safe places." "That's incredible," Eleanor said, smiling through her tears. "I can't believe how many lives we're saving." More than that, the community began to change. People who once ignored the suffering of animals started paying attention. Calls came in reporting neglected pets or suspicious breeders. The local shelter was busier than ever, but they were finally getting the help they needed. Eleanor's cabin earned a new nickname, the Cabin of Second Chances. It was a place where broken animals could heal, where love could rewrite the darkest chapters of their lives. One evening, as Eleanor sat on her porch, Sunny and Goldie curled up beside her, she heard footsteps behind her. It was Sarah, a woman who had adopted one of the rescued dogs. "I just wanted to say thank you," Sarah said softly. "Without you, Max wouldn't have made it." Eleanor smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "It's not just me. It's all of us working together." The puppies had become more than survivors. They were symbols of hope. Their story inspired others to speak up, to rescue, to care. But Eleanor knew the fight wasn't over. Roy's cruelty had left scars, not just on the dogs but on the whole community. There were still animals in need, still people who turned a blind eye. One afternoon, Eleanor received a call from the local police. "We're still investigating Roy's operation," the officer said. "We found evidence of illegal breeding and animal abuse. Charges are being filed." Eleanor nodded, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. "Thank you for doing this. It means everything." As days passed, Eleanor focused on healing Sunny and Goldie, watching them grow stronger and more playful each day. But she also started planning. She wanted to open a proper rescue center, a safe place for animals like hers. "We can't save them all," she told Marta one evening, "but we can save enough to make a difference." Marta agreed, her eyes shining. "And with the community behind us, we'll do just that." Word spread quickly about Eleanor's plan. Volunteers signed up, donations kept pouring in, and soon they had enough to start building. One morning, as Eleanor watched Sunny chase Goldie across the field, she thought about how far they'd come. From scared, hurt puppies to symbols of hope. "They've changed everything," she whispered. The truth had spread like fire, lighting up even the darkest corners. Eleanor knew there would be more challenges ahead, but for now, she allowed herself to hope. Hope that no animal would have to suffer in silence again. Hope that every second chance could lead to a better life, and hope that together they could change the world, one rescued pup at a time. It had been a full year since the chaos with Roy, the rescue, and the new life Eleanor had built. The cabin still stood quiet in the snow, but inside, warmth and hope filled the air. One cold evening, as Eleanor sat by the fire brushing Goldie's soft fur, she heard a gentle knock on the door. It wasn't the harsh, threatening knock she'd heard that stormy night before. This was soft, almost hesitant. Curious, Eleanor opened the door. Standing there was a young girl, no older than 10, shivering in her thin jacket, clutched carefully. In her arms was a tiny, soaked kitten, its fur matted and trembling. "Miss Eleanor," the girl said quietly, her voice trembling with the cold and maybe fear. "Someone told me you help animals. Please, can you help this little one?" Eleanor's heart clenched. She looked down at the kitten, its tiny eyes wide and scared. Sunny and Goldie appeared behind her, wagging their tails, sensing the kindness in the girl. "Come in, sweetheart," Eleanor said softly, stepping aside. "You're right on time." The girl stepped inside, wiping her tears with her sleeve. "Her name's Luna," she whispered. "I found her by the road. She was all alone and freezing." Eleanor knelt down, letting Luna crawl gently into her hands. The kitten purred weakly but didn't try to escape. It was clear she needed more than warmth. She needed care and love. "You did the right thing bringing her here," Eleanor said, her voice full of reassurance. "We'll take good care of Luna." The girl smiled faintly, relief shining in her eyes. "I want to help her get better. I want her to have a home." Eleanor's eyes softened. "That's the spirit. That's exactly why this place exists. To give animals like Luna a second chance." Sunny and Goldie circled the girl, sniffing. Luna carefully. Goldie gave a gentle bark, as if welcoming the kitten to their little family. Eleanor laughed softly, the sound bright in the quiet cabin. Days passed, and Luna slowly grew stronger. Eleanor and Marta worked to nurse her back to health, while the girl, whose name was Emma, came every day after school to help. Emma's bright eyes and gentle hands brought new light into the cabin. One afternoon, as Eleanor watched Emma play with Luna and the puppies, she thought about how far they'd all come, from 2 scared puppies to a community rallying to save countless animals. From a cold night and a knock on the door to a new beginning. "Miss Eleanor," Emma said one day, tugging on her sleeve, "do you think Luna will ever find a family like Sunny and Goldie did?" Eleanor smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind Emma's ear. "She will, and maybe even a little better, because of you." Emma's smile grew wider, pride shining bright. "I want to help more animals. I want to be like you." Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. "You already are." Outside, the snow continued to fall softly, blanketing the world in white. Inside the cabin, a new chapter was unfolding, a story of kindness, healing, and hope. The cabin had become more than a shelter. It was a symbol now, a beacon for those who believed in second chances, a place where broken animals and broken hearts found a way to heal together. That night, Eleanor stood at the window, watching the snowflakes swirl and settle. Sunny lay at her feet, Goldie curled up nearby, and Luna softly purred in Emma's arms. Her kindness hadn't just saved 2 puppies. It had started a movement that was growing stronger every day. And Eleanor knew, deep inside, that as long as there were animals in need and people like Emma brave enough to knock on her door, the story would never end. "Thank you for trusting me," Eleanor whispered, eyes shining with hope. Emma hugged Luna close, her small frame full of courage and love. The door had opened again, and this time it was just the beginning. If this story touched your heart, please share it with others. Every like, comment, and share helps raise awareness for animals who need a second chance. And if you can, consider supporting your local shelters or rescue groups, because kindness can change lives, just like it did for Sunny, Goldie, and Luna. Remember, every small act of love makes a big difference. Thank you for being part of this journey.